Helin Sari Ertem joins me. She is an Associate Professor of International Relations at Istanbul Medeniyet University. Welcome back, Helin. So let's start with that 5% of GDP. I mean, in real terms, this means hundreds of billions of dollars more for NATO. Where's that money going to go? What's it going to be spent on?
Well, new technology. And when we look at the messages coming from the European countries, they especially underline the message as tougher, faster NATO, which is built to win. So they want to be efficient. The technology is changing every single day, and as they underlined, your reporter has already underlined, Russia is doing its best to catch the high amount of technology in terms of armament. And I guess NATO, all in all, as members, they have a kind of anxiety not to be able to catch this technology. So technology needs investment, technology needs money, and they also need to cut some of the expenses from other parts of the spendings, like education, maybe in social services. This is a kind of risk for the European countries' future, so maybe that's why Spain is somehow trying to pull itself back from this target, which is underlined today. So there will be lots of arguments in the coming days, but all in all, I could see that they are in a position to increase their defense spending to 5% as they promised.
Can I play devil's advocate here? Why do they need that? If you, let's say that Russia decides to attack a member of NATO, line up all of those NATO member armies up against Russia, which can't even defeat Ukraine on its own.
Yeah.
Why does it need more? Because you've got several nuclear nations in there in NATO.
Well, this is a risk, but at the same time, as I said before, it's about deterrence, so you have to stay strong. And I think in the last couple of years, NATO lost this determinants, let's say, the belief in itself that it has to be capable enough to fight against those possible threats, and already it's Russia as it's underlined. But it's not only Russia. For the coming future, they are underlining China as a threat as well in global spectrum. For that reason, they have to spend a lot. Whether they use it or not, it's about deterrence, mainly.
Let's talk about one of the key articles in the NATO Charter, Article 5, which dictates that if one member comes under attack, everybody rallies around it in their support. Now, Donald Trump has only just said that when talking about that, he said it's open to interpretation, which must have sent chills through the leaders of NATO member states. Then he's come out today, and when referring to that article, he said, you know, regarding to Article 5, we're with them all the way. Both those statements are vague and they're open to interpretation. They contradict each other. What game is President Trump playing? Well,
it's actually only for once, and in the Afghanistan war, after 9/11, it was activated. So in all 76, 78 years of NATO history, it was only used for once in the NATO war, in the NATO's war against Afghanistan. And it was, is a quick sentence, we can say one for all for one. But there have been so many crises in which NATO was expected to defend one of the members, but it didn't. Turkey, for example, in many crises regarding the insecurity in the southern part of the country, especially in the Middle East and Syrian crisis, we expect most of the time something more from NATO members, and they didn't come to support Turkey. So there is already a kind of vagueness regarding the interpretation of this Article number 5, but still this is a kind of security, a kind of guarantee for all members to stay inside the alliance rather than spreading up towards the other parts of the world or other alliances of the world. So it is very important for the alliance to keep the members, the existing members, inside the family, and this is about strengthening the motto or the message of the alliance for the future.
That lack of support, you were talking about, you know, Turkey, that lack of support, is that perhaps down to a lack of thinking in the same direction? For example, we know some NATO members support Ukraine against Russia, the likes of UK, France. We know that Hungary probably aligns more with Russia. And the United States was in support of Ukraine and has become less so under President Trump. So how does NATO make a decision on supporting Ukraine when the individual member states are pulling in different directions?
Well, Ukraine is not a member of NATO. First of all, that's the basic point. It wants to be a NATO member, and the circumstances are not ready.
So there's no obligation?
No obligation at all, because it's not a member. But all in all, led by the United States especially, the alliance gave support to Ukraine, and without that support, especially coming from United States, United Kingdom and Germany, Ukraine wouldn't be able to defend itself against Russia. But most of the time when we are discussing about this old alliance, let's say, we keep underlining that the success of the alliance is actually depending on its success to protect its allies, to fight against each other, not to fight or defend against the outside world, but to prevent any kind of conflict in between these allies in the same family. So I think this is the biggest success of NATO. So in order to keep it as a strong and big community of defense, collective defense, they have to keep underlining new messages, new goals, new threats they should determine for the future. Otherwise, there would be no meaning of NATO.
That's such an interesting interpretation, perhaps protecting each other against fellow members rather than any external threat. Really appreciate your analysis, Helin Sari Ertem from Istanbul Medeniyet University.